Parents who have had their children be bullies or reported to have been mistreating their classmate. How did you find out? And how did it make you feel? What happened after? I feel like only good parents who actually acknowledged and subsequently addressed the problem will comment here. The answer we probably won't see, despite it being very common, is I ignored it. The other kid was the bully, deserved it. If they even knew or admitted it to themselves to begin with. I had a problem with my daughter beating up kids in preschool, of all things. I guess it can happen at any age. We had some major changes at home at the time and she was acting out. The teachers brought it to my attention and it was handled right away. Thankfully this was years ago and we haven't had problems since. I will tell you that I was strangely grateful my daughter was the bully and not the victim. But probably for a different reason than you would expect. Because she was the bully, I could correct the issue. I can't control someone else's kid when I'm not around. I never really thought of it that way, but you're right. It's much easier to address a problem behavior in your own child than someone else's, especially at such a young age. I worked at a children's mental health clinic for over a year. We got lots of bullies, but one girl told us that her mom makes her bully other kids. We talked to mom and she claimed that if her daughter was hurting kids first, then she wouldn't get bullied herself. About a week later, the mom vanished, running away from police for drugs or murder or something crazy, and the daughters went to foster care. No more bullying problems after that. Poor kid. Good to see that the parents here are mostly proactive about correcting bullying. Not a parent, but a teacher. There's a 6th grader in our school who is always in trouble for hurting kids, even those much younger, destroying school property and general disrespect. For example, I witnessed him yelling at the admin of the school, "Buttholes. You're all buttholes," in front of the some little kids I handle. Naturally we would see his mom in the principal's office a lot. Instead of acknowledging that maybe her kid is in the wrong, his mom would side with the kid, blame the other children and question the credentials of the teachers handling her son's incidents. Little wonder his behavior never gets corrected. We suspect the child has mental health issues, but the denial is strong in the mother. My eldest daughter, a few years ago, she was 9, decided to hang around with the wrong crowd. After a week or so, her mother and I got a call to come in for a chat. And we learned that she'd been joining in the bullying of another girl in the same class and how the other girl had ended up breaking down in tears at the thought of going to school. When we got her home that afternoon, my daughter and I had a brief discussion about respect and morality. Read. I asked her if she'd enjoy receiving the same treatment she'd been giving, elaborating somewhat on the details. After crying herself to sleep that night, she woke up early and spent 2 hours making an apology card. That was the last time we had a call about her and bullying, until she kicked her little brother's bully in the head a year later. She got to choose what we had for dinner that night. That was the last time we had a call about her and bullying, until she kicked her little brother's bully in the head a year later. She got to choose what we had for dinner that night. Hahaha, she let you down once, and went on to make you proud. My niece recently got in huge trouble when it was discovered she was bullying a 1st grader. She's in the 5th grade, but it's not like it matters. The school called one day and told my brother and his fiancé. When my brother found out, he was really disappointed in her since she's been bullied. He's been bullied and it's something they bonded over and talked about a year or so ago. She was apathetic to the whole thing, which really made my brother angry, so she's grounded for the next while. She immediately started crying, wailing, throwing a temper tantrum, you name it. That's a power thing. She wouldn't bully someone older, but younger kids are easy targets for her feelings. She obviously has something going on that's bothering her big time. This is my unprofessional mama opinion. My teenage boys were driving past an apartment complex yelling at kids. They were being dongs. I would not have known if someone hadn't posted about it in the town's Facebook page. I privately messaged the mom of the kid they were yelling at. I then drove them to the apartment complex and made them apologize to the kid, in front of his parents too and grandmother. They were unable to go to town without adult supervision for a few weeks. I was not amused. You sound like a pretty super mom to me. My kid was the bullied one, but I know what happened. So, my son goes to a special needs school. He kept coming home with bites on his arm. He was reluctant to tell us who was doing it, but he eventually named 2 people and we figured out which one it was. The kid who bites people regularly. Surprisingly, the school told the mum and she broke down. I felt so bad for her. I mean, I don't want my kid bitten, but I wasn't angry. We're all in the same boat and I know how hard it can be to get our kids to understand. Her daughter is severely autistic, non-verbal, and they were probably fighting over the class iPad or something. So no hard feelings from me. The teachers kept a closer eye on them when they were together and it stopped. I imagine they would have concentrated on the problem in therapy for the next few weeks. No harm done really. In kindergarten, my daughter's teacher approached me after school one day when I was picking her up. She said how normally my kid was helpful and fun, etc. But that today she seemed distant and kicked another child during a coloring activity. I told the teacher that her mom and I had just separated and that I was thankful for her telling me. On our walk home, my daughter and I had a really long chat about things at home. Her mom, me, life in general. She had lots of questions and we hashed everything out. Next day, she got her little gold stars for good behavior and we haven't looked back. Stupid office onions. Not my kid or relative by my then BF's niece. I'm still close to the family so I still hear issues. Basically, parents went through a nasty divorce. Mom, who worked in the school system, wasn't really paying attention to the kids, twins, and was really using them more as a show off to make it look like she was an awesome parent in social media. The elder of the twin, she was 13 at the time, started to act out. Claimed she was being bullied, developed an eating disorder which the parents denied until doc says so. She pretty much grew up to be like that Cash Me on the Outside girl from Dr. Phil. Girl loved the spotlight. She played victim a lot even though some were true. She tried to hit on one of popular gal's BF and got some nasty repercussions from that. She did her own cyberbullying of other PPL. Worse, she was a bully to her own family and grandparents. At 15 she tried to hit her grandma. She was sent to a facility, diagnosed with bipolar and some other weird crap. No longer welcome to grandparents' house until she's stable. Sadly, her parents still neglect her and I doubt she will change anytime soon. The elder of the twins. I do not understand. Not a parent but an aunt. My nephews were born 1 month apart and grew up closely. It was actually quite amazing to see two little boys grow so differently and yet manage to do everything together. The younger nephew started to hoard toys or books from the older one. It seemed harmless and gave me an opportunity to teach about the joys of sharing. This pattern continued until I noticed the younger nephew was pretty much using the older as his personal bee. It may be important to note that the older cousin was shorter and stockier, so perhaps the younger felt as if he was the alpha nephew. Anyway, boys will be boys. They play, fought and wrestled often, and this continued until one day I got sneaky. I walked down the hallway to their playroom after noticing how quiet it had fallen. I could hear the younger commanding the older to remove his clothes and get under a blanket. I walked in to find the younger nephew holding a loaded Nerf gun to the older's head as he tried to undress. I immediately put a stop to this and tried to explain that your privates are extremely private and shouldn't be included in the laws of sharing. That was the last incident, and shortly after the older nephew's mother enrolled him in jiu-jitsu and he's never been a victim again. A timely question. Last week, during the first puck drop of a home hockey game, my son, the backup goalie, threw down another teammate on his bench. That teammate wasn't dressed in hockey gear because he was out with an injury. My son punched him in the helmet 3 times. It looked brutal. He was viewed as the perpetrator. Upon further investigation, though, the authorities at the school discovered my son had been bullied by this kid for years. My son beat his bully down like a bad butt. Not that I condone what he did. He got suspended and I backed the school's decision 100%. However, I did object to the label that my son was the bully. The school has now punished the other kid for bullying, too. I'm so sad this has happened. But I'm also pretty cool with the fact that I don't think anyone is going to mess with my son again. That teammate wasn't dressed in hockey gear because he was out with an injury. My son punched him in the helmet 3 times. What? This thread reminded me of the time I accidentally bullied someone. Still feel terrible. It was 5th grade, right before I switched out of public school, because frankly the middle school was a crap show. At the Halloween dance, there were tons of categories and contests for costumes that night. A girl I barely knew approached me and said so and so was crying in the bathroom because of me. I was confused, and I followed her even though she honestly seemed pee. The crying girl was indeed crying. Apparently I said she was ugly. I thought about that and realized I had acted surprised she was entering a beauty contest because she was dressed as a monster. I hadn't meant she was ugly. I had meant it was weird to enter a monster costume in a beauty contest. I was, and still am, far too little and often speak before thinking. So, I stared at the floor in shame and tried to explain as best I could, and then I fled. I hope she understood what I meant and that night didn't mess her up badly. Sorry, former classmate. I still have foot and mouth syndrome. There's a huge difference between what you did and bullying, though. You're good. Teacher here. 9 in 10 parents are bullies too, which is where the behavior comes from. Many times, they refuse to accept the truth about their kids and the kids themselves could be unaware too. I remember when I was about 9 I actually got bullied by a teacher, of all people, in the Catholic school I went to. I honestly have no idea why an adult professional would choose to pick on a kid, but she did and I've since chalked it up to her being crazy. Anyways, this teacher was witchy and bizarre, with drawn on eyebrows, excessively permed hair, and rather youngish and thin, except she chose to dress like an old lady. One day I was giving out cake to my classmates for my birthday and I blurted out that I wanted to save the slice of cake with the flower on it for my favorite teacher, which wasn't her. And that was when she yelled at me in front of the class that I was fat and greedy and I was super embarrassed. She started to single me out after that, sending me to sit and face the wall in front of the class for reasons ranging from an incorrect answer to not looking interested enough in her lessons. She would also give treats and prizes to the class and make a big deal singling me out by not giving me any. In addition, she would make me stay in for recess because she didn't like how my fine hair got tangled, so she would make me sit with her at lunch while she combed it. It was all really weird. The final straw came when I started crying a lot at home and some of the staff called my parents to report that I wasn't eating and they were afraid I was showing signs of an eating disorder. It was then that I broke down and told my folks everything that had been happening, fearing I would get in trouble. Instead, my parents went into the office with other parents who had previously complained, and she got super fired. TLDR. Got bullied by a teacher and then my parents got her fired. Frick you, Miss Farah. I work for an airline and once received a call from a school that had booked a flight for a class of 6th graders. About a week before the trip, one of the boys in the class was heard taunting a girl who could not afford to go on the trip. The school called his single mother, who instructed the school to change the name on his airline ticket to that of the girl and have the girl go on the trip in his place. Mom even said she would pay any fees involved. I waived the standard name change fee and asked the school to pass along my compliments to the mother. Either that boy learned one hard lesson or he hated his mother for the rest of his life. I always wondered if I would have been courageous as that mother. She sounds awesome. The boy's mom. We were looking out of the window one day when we saw our 2 girls with the neighbor. One was standing with the neighbor distracting her while the other sneaked round the back and jumped her. We felt bad for the neighbor that our 2 were bullying her, but also proud that ours were working together and getting along. We decided not to punish ours and give them some fish bits instead as a treat. Cats are assholes and there's nothing you can really do about it. Starts reading and grabs pitchfork. Finishes story and puts down pitchfork. Dang you. I received a call from another parent when my daughter was in 3rd grade. Apparently, she and a few other girls started a mean girls club. They hung out in the bathroom at lunch and refused to let this little girl join. They also refused to let other little girls use their bathroom. I called the other moms and let them know what our daughters were doing. And I also talked with my daughter about being a nice girl, who people like and respect, versus being a mean girl who people hate and make fun of behind her back. I then drove home the grossness of hanging out in a bathroom of all places. The club disbanded, and I made a point of inviting the little girl over quite often. The other moms did similar things, and she became part of the friend group. The thing is, my daughter wasn't really a mean girl. She's actually very sweet. I don't know why the girls decided to take over the bathroom, but I do know what movie they watched that they got their name from. I still tease her about her little club occasionally. Girls at my middle school did this as well, except the parents and teachers knew about it and never did anything. Good on you for actually talking to your kid about it. Child therapist here. I don't have a story, but this may be relevant. I talk to my clients who have been bullied about what I call the bully trap. When presented with bullying, children typically have 3 options and all of them are bad. That can tell, which often exacerbates a problem. They can fight back, which often ends up with them in as much or more trouble than the instigator. Or they can ignore it, which often means it continues or escalates. Many kids will opt to bully others that are even more vulnerable, as a way of deflecting from themselves, or seeking to gain their own power back. It's not unusual to find that a bully is also a victim in their own right. Not a parent, but I was a kid who accidentally bullied my classmates. I was raised in a household where no jokes were off limits. I thought I was just teasing people and thought everyone kinda got but hurt way too easily. This happened from 6th grade to 8th, and I eventually stopped talking a lot and became the quiet kid cause I was too scared I would hurt someone's feelings if I talked. Plot twist. I picked on other kids at school from time to time. Pretty textbook stuff. I was insecure because I was awkward and chubby. So, I started being a comedian. Everybody loves somebody who makes people laugh, right? Except one of the main methods of getting laughs was to make jokes about other people. I grew out of it mostly by high school, but looking back on it, I kind of hate my younger self for it. I cringe now at the thought of being anything but kind to other people. It sucks. Sometimes you don't realize what you've done until it's just too late. Nobody killed themselves. I never got in serious trouble, anything like that. But somewhere in the space-time continuum, name of my classmate, is crying because of me, and that's simply unacceptable. Reach out to them. It may still bother them. I had someone who bullied me apologize and it meant a lot, even years after it all. Not a parent, but I was bullied in primary school when I was around 5. 4 boys decided I was their target. I've no idea why, but the school would do nothing about it. My mum went up to the school repeatedly, but they weren't interested. She wrote letters that went unanswered, so told me it wasn't the right way to handle the situation, but the only way to get anyone to understand was to do it back. I remember her telling me to wait until each of them were on their own and do what they'd done to me. Kicking, hitting, etc. I did. The school all of a sudden was interested, the boys' parents up in arms as their babies were being bullied. It was a small community, so the mums found out it was retaliation rather than me being a little crap. I can't remember much else, but I think I had a few days off as my mum described it, but sure it would have been a suspension for attacking 4 boys. Looking back, it seems weird a kid saying 4 other kids were attacking them at once was ignored, but one retaliating against bullies was instantly addressed. From my understanding, that's far too common. I suspect that it's because the bullies are from rich families. Not a parent, I'm the kid. There were these 2 meathead kids who were 4 years older than me that beat the ever-loving crap out me all the time. Smashed my head into sidewalks, punched me and kicked me a bunch. My dad taught me how to punch and fight because of them. I won sometimes. If I grabbed a stick I could sword fight their asses and they'd get beat back. Well, my mom understandably hated these kids and she was driving by when they were pummeling me one day and she grabbed the one that was smashing my head by his hands to yell at him. He was like, "Why are you holding my hand? Scared I'll hit you?" My mom said, "No, I'm afraid I'll hit you." She also slapped one of them once and it was awesome. Another time she picked me up from school for an appointment and they walked in front of her when she was doing 50 kph to moon her. After she slammed the brakes to not kill them, she put her car in neutral and rev bombed them, hitting VTEC gloriously. One of them tripped on his pants, they were so scared. I love my mom. Not a parent, but it happens to my sister. First time she was caught bullying, my grandpa gave her a very serious talk about its effects and consequences. Second time she was caught bullying, he beat the living crap out of her and asked her if she enjoyed it because that was what she was doing to those kids on a daily basis. She never bullied anyone again. I like the fact he talked to her about it first before disciplining her. I was severely bullied from K through 12. My adult life is an unrecoverable shambles and I never really had a childhood. I don't blame the kids, but parents, coaches, teachers who don't stop bullying should spend their lives in prison. Bullies ruined my life. Now I just wait for it to play out naturally so I don't let everyone down. Mine didn't go so hot. 6-year-old son got in trouble a few days in a row on the bus home from school to daycare. He was acting up a bit, and the teacher said he was being aggressive and screaming at a kid. She said it was out of character though and got a timeout and was all good. Next day he pinched a 4K girl hard, made her cry. I sat him down. He blamed this other kid saying he made him do it. Same kid he was screaming at the day before. I was upset with him. Took away all his Star Wars toys, said he'd get one toy back every day he was good and one would go on the garbage if I got a bad report. Also made him apologize to the girl. He loves Star Wars more than anything. After about a month of good reports he had earned all his toys back. I come to find out the other little crap who told him to pinch the girl had been bullying him pretty bad and gave him a bloody lip. He didn't tell me or the teacher or defend himself because he was afraid of getting into trouble and not getting a toy back that day. Talked to my son and found out the other boy, who is 2 years older and always getting in trouble, would pinch him, call him ugly and stupid on the playground and say he was going to kill him all the time. I felt like a walking piece of crap who wouldn't protect my own son or let him protect himself. I know there are a lot of crappy kids out there who do bully, but maybe don't rush in before hearing the kid out, especially if you've never had problems with them before. I guess it's also about figuring out all the details before reacting. My guess is most parents of bullies are buttholes and that's why their kids decide they should frick with other people for no reason. Bullies suck. I hate 8th grade because I got bullied for the whole year. All of that crap you hear kids do to avoid their bullies, walking certain paths in the hallway, eating lunch fast and whatnot. I did that in 8th grade to mitigate the bullying. Pathetic. The bullying only stopped when I literally had to fight my bullies. Let's just say I would be extremely pissed if my future children ever became bullies. No human should do that to another. Again, I don't like to recommend. I usually talk them through the process of what happens if they get in trouble, and if it's worth the risk. We talk about whether or not violence is actually the best option that they are comfortable with. Does it make them the same as the bully? Could they or someone else be injured? My finance's nephew was beating the heck out of kids at his high school. Fiancé paid a bigger kid to put him on his butt until he learned his lesson. Kid hit him a few times and they never had another problem. My nephew. He was a small kid but he bullied other kids twice his size. We are Asian so he's small in the US. He started bullying when he was here in the Philippines. He push and shoves other kids when he was 3-4 years old in the school. He does not like when other kids does not talk to him so he bullies them to become his friend. I know it's sad. His parents left him to work in US and left him with us. We thought he would change once he go to US with his mom and dad but it was still the same. He fought and bullied kids twice his size and does not take crap from other kids. One time he bit a black kid and was asked why he did it and his response was I was hungry. He looks like chocolate. We did not know what his problem was but he went to therapy and got diagnosed with ADHD. Now he is off his meds now and became a very charismatic teenager. He's one of the school's science quiz representative and on the wrestling team. Sometimes you just need to talk to them and let them understand that you love them. Bullies becomes bullies when they have a crappy life at home. Like my nephew. As an uncle I was proud that he was not being bullied even though he's so small. It was my concern when he moved to US. But at the same time I was scared because kids there are a bit more crazy than here. I am happy he has changed and looking to have a bright future. Second week of 1st grade my son punched a 4th grader in the face for being rude and not letting him have fun too. Son got told he couldn't do some group activity between a couple of not his friends' kids. We had to give him a loo and talk about kindness and luck. The thing with bullies is most kids aren't bad but instead are having fricked up life and home stuff happening. Puberty and hormones making them nutty. A secret etc. It's acting out. Hey I feel helpless in my life cause or XYZ but I can feel powerful putting someone down. And I know kids whose parents are judgmental snobby method fuckers and then are shocked when their kids are as well. It's hard. There's not enough resources out there to focus on fixing the problem one child at a time, and a few lane sessions in the auditorium talking about it won't fix it. My daughter is not a bully and stands up for the kids who can't all the time. It doesn't win her many friends. Because she's a tattletale, she's working on creating a forum for girls that's all about kindness, empathy, and probably glitter and Lisa Frank. My little Johnny was just teasing. He'd never do anything cruel. That nasty little Jonas boy must have said something to set him off. If you're really looking for someone to blame, start with him. I think Johnny should be excused from homework tonight. He's been through enough, don't you think? My daughter is 4.5. Last week her teacher talked to her in front of me about spitting on a little girl. We have been having a lot of discussions about respect lately, so I was really disappointed and upset. Her side of the story was that the girl took her shovel and spit on her first. We still continued the discussion because it still wasn't appropriate and she had to color the other girl a picture apologizing. I also had to tell her that if someone is being mean or bullying her, she needed to tell a teacher and not to just react. Because at the end of the day the other girl told and nothing happened to her for what she did. All of this totally sucked, considering at home when her friends are over I teach her to handle her problems and not to tattle. At least you're having the discussion with her. I feel that's the importance here. You've made the effort, create a dialogue regarding bullying. I don't have a kid, but my little brother who is 5 can be a little crap. Everyone loves him, but he has bad moments and we don't know why. I had just moved out and he was a bit young to understand why I wasn't there anymore, and apparently when it clicked in his head, he had a massive temper tantrum at school, was throwing tables and chairs around the room and calling everyone little suckers. Apparently the class had to be evacuated whilst the teacher restrained him. My 5-year-old little brother, my mum, and stepdad were obviously peeved because he had just started playing up a little and they are still trying to sort his behavior out. But when they told me that, I felt terrible, but I couldn't help but laugh. A whole class got evacuated because a 5-year-old went crazy because of me. It's not technically bullying, but I thought I'd throw this story in here. He's fine now, sometimes has his moments, but what kid doesn't? Every kid will kid every now and then. I guess I'm just trying to find out the thought processes of the kids that go through these stuffs. As someone whose childhood got saddening as time went on, I never thought of picking on someone as an outlet. That said, I do know my emotions got darker on a whole. Humans are complex. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.